This time on Watchers of Tomorrow. Get in the vat, Wesley.
Hello, welcome to Watchers of Tomorrow, the sci-fi review and critique show. That's where am I? Why am I here? Who are all you people? What is this? What is this thing we're doing? What is this thing we're watching?
So, Gapwood, I know things are a little confusing right now, but we're still doing the podcast. I know it's been so long, but we could do another episode, right?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Good.
That
good.
sounds
Right.
good. It's funny because it's only been a week, because this is one of the times that we have actually been able to schedule 2 consecutive weeks in a row. This is a 1999 episode. We're still in the early 90s because we're still nearing the end of season 3.
Mm-hmm.
We are soon going to get into the big, proper, bombastic, oh my god, everyone remembers this 90s Star Trek.
Well, some of that is in this season too.
Yeah,
but,
we've had some, but we're getting there. We're ramping up.
It's hitting its peak performance.
So this episode, that was a pun. This episode is written by Peter S. Spiegel, who is a well-known fantasy author, best known for his book *The Last Unicorn*.
Ah, yes.
He also,
I think I've technically seen him, but I've not talked to him, so I can't say I met him.
yeah, this is like the thing where I'm pretty sure that I peed next to someone famous in an airport one time. But that was not a situation where I was going to make small talk.
Yeah, it's like, I technically know this guy because of this weird reason. Yeah, that's weird. I went to high school with that guy. Or, yeah, the governor was on the same airplane as me. Huh.
Oh, fun. Shouldn't be on the same plane at the same time. It's like Air Force One rules.
Well, I wasn't the lieutenant governor, so it's fine.
Oh, okay. Well, that's less interesting. Vigil has also co-wrote the Ralph Bakshi animated Lord of the Rings, which is just insane.
Yep.
So I thought it was worth mentioning because it's just weird and interesting.
The Lord of the Rings, 1978, and it is a bit of a trip.
Yeah, it's very, very weird.
Golem's like, I don't know, he's like some sort of goblin in this one. And interesting, I guess the hobbits are very round.
Yeah.
Gandalf's awesome with this massive beard and doing that cool stuff.
Interestingly, people took way more inspiration from this version of hobbits for later things than they did from the actual movies, where the hobbits just looked like dudes with ear makeup. They could have been any Star Trek alien.
Yep. Beagle, he's cool.
So this is an episode where the guest star is the name of the episode to make it extra confusing for everyone.
So when we talk about Sarek and Sarek, in Sarek.
Yeah, so this is Sarek, who's Spock's dad from that other show.
That one with the thing.
Which I hope you remember, because Spock's not been in this show yet, so
nope.
Hopefully you watched the other show.
Yeah, so Mark Leonard, he was in this show called Star Trek, just Star Trek.
That's it, just that. Star Trek, no subtitle.
He was also in a bunch of the movies, so that's cool too.
We've talked about him a lot. So he began acting in the 50s in TV shows like the soap opera Search for Tomorrow, which we are not affiliated with.
Not yet.
I don't even know if it's still going or if what happened. Anyway, should get the rights. It'd be fun.
Lasted until 86. Wow. 51 to 86.
So I'm the reincarnation of Search of Tomorrow.
Yeah, he's been in a fair bit of stuff. He was even in Mission Impossible in the 60s.
Mission Impossible, Buck Rogers in the 25th century.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, he played the first Romulan to ever appear on screen in Balance of Terror.
Indeed. And he was also in the very, very important show, Bob Newhart Show, which is also connected to Newhart, which is where Bob Newhart was running a hotel in Vermont.
I feel like we've lost something with TV all being big interconnected movies and whatever now, because you used to just have really batshit things like, we have a popular show, what if we spin off one of the characters into running a hotel for no reason?
Yep. But it turns out it was a dream the whole time. Spoilers.
Again, they pulled the Saint elsewhere.
Sort of. In the last episode of Newhart, Bob wakes up on, in his role as a psychiatrist in the other show there. And he's like, I had this weirdest dream.
Okay.
Yeah, now you know.
Okay,
oh, yeah.
Good. There are other guest stars as well. We have Joanna Miles playing Piran. She's been acting since the 70s, has supporting roles in movies like The Way We Live Now or The Ultimate Warrior, and even the 1995 Judge Dredd.
Yeah, I was going to mention that one as Magruder.
She was also in something called Sex and Breakfast, which I did not want to look into too much.
Yeah, morning fun times is all good, but in the middle of breakfast, come on.
No food in the bedroom.
If you're
How you get
gonna combine food with it, you need special protocols.
Yeah, whipped cream and chocolate sauce does not count as breakfast.
Oh, speaking of soap operas, she was also in All My Children for 5 episodes in the 70s.
Oh, only 5.
So, temporary I'm here person.
She won Emmy Awards for a supporting role in The Glass Menagerie. She was also in at least one episode of the Incredible Hulk TV show. Excellent.
I think somebody else in the cast might have been on The Incredible Hulk too. Was it Mark Leonard, maybe?
Maybe. He was in everything, so.
Oh, Trapper John, MD.
Everything was. I just love it when it was a doctor show. We haven't had that in forever. Doctor shows now are called weird shit like ER or Grey's Anatomy or things. It's just to be like, Doctor, MD.
Dr. Gepwin, MD.
Because you're going to get confused if you have like Doctor whoever. It's like, oh, is this a show about theoretical physicists? Like, oh, no, medicine.
Good. We've cleared that up. Wait a moment. I could have a non-MD doctor show.
Yeah. Dr. Isaacs. MD? No.
Not MD.
That's the entire show. Is everyone's like, is there a doctor here? Yes. Can you fix my son's heart? No.
Not properly. I'll get you a medical doctor.
All right. William Dennis plays Key. I'm not sure why they have such weird names. Anyway, he's been in a lot of 80s and 90s shows. He was had guest roles in Golden Girls, Newhart, and Growing Pains. He also has a PhD in theoretical chemistry.
Nice.
So not MD.
Yes. Not MD. William Dennis, not MD.
Not even practical. It's like, I'm sorry, I can't even mix up the medicine. I can tell you what happens if you should mix up the medicine with math. I can't do it, though. I'm a theoretical chemist.
So theoretically, I can do chemistry. Excellent.
It's a lot safer. I knew a lot of people who had bad times in the chemistry lab, so it seems a lot safer to do theoretical chemistry.
I've known a few chemists, mostly while I was in grad school, because their building was right, kind of like attached to ours. Some of them were, just general random people. Some of them were interesting characters. And then there was the one guy that wanted to be our roommate once, and I decided to go with somebody else, which ended up being a good thing because it turned out he was making meth.
No, he was Breaking Bad. He was doing it.
Also, William Dennis, by the way, was in something called Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
A bit of a title. Maybe it has something to do with vampires.
I didn't see that. That sounds like fun. It's probably bad, but sounds fun.
No. 5 different criminals face imminent death after botching a job quite badly. All right.
Okay. Then finally, we have Roko Sisto as Sakath or Sakath. Can't remember.
Yeah, this is
one of these weird Vulcan names.
Mm-hmm.
He was born in Italy, moved to the U.S. as a teenager, and had a lot of film roles in the early 80s. He was in After Hours, Far and Away, Easter. Don't know what that is, actually. Sometimes I write these things. I'm like, I'll look into that movie later, and then I don't.
He was on Matlock. Far and Away, Illuminata, Prince, Blue Moon, The American Astronaut.
At some point we're just reading the names of movies and not actually contributing anything.
He's also in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas as one of the mafia people. But
I just played that.
God, the American Astronaut, I think that's one of those movies people keep recommending to me because it's actually quite weird.
I just finished playing through Grand Theft Auto San Andreas again.
Are you still a buster?
The new version looks terrible, and I hate it, but the game is still pretty good.
Oh, that works. I always had trouble with the mandatory learn how to fly mission.
Oh, you don't immediately just break into the airport and fly around in circles until they give you your pilot's license so that you can use aircraft for the entire game?
Well, that would be nice.
When I was in high school and we were all playing that on the PlayStation, I was known as the one who was actually good at flying in that game, and we would have get-togethers and see how far you could fly the giant jetliner through the middle of the city, doing barrel rolls and going sideways between skyscrapers.
Excellent.
I was the only one who could do anything, basically. It was fun.
Nice. Yeah, getting in the jumbo jet there, always tricksy adventures.
Well, you can get into it, we just can't get out of it.
Not without a little bit of falling.
Anyway, that's all the guest stars. And as much as we'd like to have a games podcast, I don't know how that would work.
I would have to play more games than the 5 I play constantly.
Now I'm on a survival game kick, which is those never end, and you just play them forever. And I've played 2 things in the last month. Yeah.
And I could talk about EU4 some more.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe the new campaign trail, which is a browser game where you run for president.
Oof, that sounds terrible.
It's pretty limited. Anyway.
This is the problem. I'm not good at 4X games.
Well, the new campaign trail is not a 4X game. It's you answer multiple choice questions and try to become president.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway. On to the actual episode here.
Yeah, now we have something happening in space. So the Enterprise is going to pick up the Federation ambassador Sarek to escort him and his new human wife Perrin to finalize a treaty with a mysterious alien race called the Lingarans.
Wait a moment. Amanda? She's not going to be 200 years old too?
No. I don't know if she died or if he just only likes human women to a certain age.
Yeah, to the mid-60s maybe? I don't know.
Picard tells Riker about the time he very briefly met Sarek at his son's wedding, very non-specific about which son or who they married.
I believe it's mentioned in one of the books, Spock married Saavik.
Yeah, I know they had a kid in one of the books.
I guess that's our maybe canon explanation what happened.
That one's just weird. There's some weird stuff in there. Have sex with the reincarnated version of Spock when he's a teenager and then get married later because, I don't know. Vulcans are weird.
Maybe she surprise had a kid and anyway.
Picard didn't actually say anything to Sarek because he was tongue-tied because he didn't know how to make small talk with someone famous.
Mm-hmm.
It was so what was it helping found the Federation as we know it?
Yeah. Breaking open this new era for peace and diplomacy.
So they prepare to bring Sarek aboard, but instead they get his 2 assistants. There's a human guy named Kai and a Vulcan named Saketh. They arrive and they warn Picard the ambassador may not be able to interact with formal activities as he would normally. Because of his advanced age, he's going to need extra time resting and meditating and doing Vulcan stuff.
Yeah, he's over 200 at this point. So more meditation, less, I don't know. What do Vulcans do for fun? Hang out, I guess?
Less meditating, music. More meditating. Picard, of course, agrees that he doesn't have to do parties, and the ambassador and his wife arrive, but Sarek immediately contradicts his aides and refuses to go to his quarters. And instead wants to inspect the conference room where the meetings will be taking place. It's
responsible, and heck, if you're energized right now, let's take care of this. So you don't have to worry about it later.
Yeah, I think I see that. Just knock it out early and then rest.
Yeah.
So, the conference room is being modified by Geordi and Wesley. They have installed goo.
Yep. A whole big vat of it.
A pile of goo, where the Lingarans are apparently going to sit while they negotiate the treaty.
I guess they're from, I don't know, some sort of swamp planet?
Seems like it doesn't... No idea. They need a specialized atmosphere. We never see them. So we just know they need to sit in this goop.
Yep.
I don't know if it's because they need a specialized environment or because it's ceremonial conference goop.
Or maybe they just really like it?
Yeah, makes them comfortable.
Yeah.
So Wesley says he needs to hurry up and finish a date. Geordi's impressed with the girl he's dating, which is creepy because Geordi is supposed to be a lot older than Wesley. So commenting on how attractive this woman that's age appropriate for Wesley to date is a little weird. Though given the fact that they keep having Wesley hook up with like people twice his age, maybe not.
Yeah, as I was thinking about, I was like, okay, at least she's an ensign, so she might be just like from the academy like yesterday.
Yeah.
So that's like within 4 or 5 years.
At this point,
age-wise.
she is a minimum of 3 years older than him. Because he could have started the academy like a year ago, but couldn't get there because he needed to run back and save the Enterprise from something.
Yes. Oh, there was also before that the test business.
Oh yeah, he failed the test, so she could only be 2 years older than him. That's true.
But still, potentially some weirdness going on here.
So Sarek arrives with Picard, and he is noticeably upset the conference room is not ready yet, despite assurances that it's in progress and will be ready by the time they arrive. It's like, why isn't it done now?
Okay, get this furniture out of here. They find it offensive. The walls are too colorful and there's too much art and light. Yeah, make this creepy, I guess.
Yes, they like to sit in the middle of a dark, creepy room so that they can stare out ominously into the shadows.
Well, so you do what you gotta do sometimes,
Despite Kay's warning about Sarek's age, he seems to be in really good health. He's able to do a lot of stuff. So Picard's unsure about inviting the ambassador to a concert they're putting on that evening. So, as a compromise, Troy suggests that he only invite his wife, and then she can bring him if he's up to it.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Makes sense. Picard meets Perrin, who agrees to go to the concert. Sounds lovely, and she'll mention it to Sarek. Back in the conference room, Geordi and Wesley are finishing up things. Geordi's annoyed that Wesley wants to leave, and they start arguing about his date, and the fight escalates until the two of them are almost going to hit each other when Riker enters to interrupt them.
And, Riker can be a hard ass at times. Other times he's, just go along sort of fellow. But this is definitely the more of that first one there with his sort of like, what the heck are you guys doing look?
Well, like, wouldn't you? If you walked in and your two most amiable coworkers were almost going to kill each other, like, what in the...
Are you guys, like, doing, like, a bit, or is this actually a real argument?
So they're going to the concert. Riker tells Picard that this fight almost happened. They've also had unusual events like Worf putting an otherwise exemplary officer on report for insubordination. Weird stuff be happening.
I know, Worf's kind of an intimidating guy, and he's Klingon, and but he's very by the book, and so putting on someone on report like that does kind of make sense in terms of his response instead of this is a Klingon ship like eating them, so this but still this is kind of shocking.
So they get to the concert, and Sarek and his wife also arrive at the concert and seem to be having just as good a time as you possibly could be listening to classical music.
That's sort of the go-to thing for the Enterprise here. We need something that is we can look like we're cultured and doesn't cost much money in terms of royalties.
Yeah. This is free. We like that.
We don't have to compose it ourselves.
Maybe they have a problem of like, they have this like, oh, this was made for the sake of art, which it definitely wasn't, but that's our general myth. And all later music was made purely for capitalism, and we don't understand capitalism, so we can't understand music from the capitalist era.
Things are a little more complicated than that, but yeah.
So during one of the more emotional pieces, Sarek sheds a single manly tear before his aides force them all to leave.
Now, I think in the big Vulcan rule book, Vulcans are allowed to do this once, but he may have already done this. He is 202 at this point.
That's true. You're allowed to shed one tear at a wedding, death of son, death of family member, that weird emotional time before you learn logic when you're a teenager and you start throwing things.
You can only do this once, though, so you have to pick.
So after the concert, Dr. Crusher decides that she is also upset that Wesley is dating. And she wanted him to go to the concert. The fact that he didn't embarrassed her in front of the captain. And when Wesley points out that she's taking this a little bit too seriously, she slaps him.
Oh, no, I don't think this quite counts as a shut up Wesley moment because, he's actually being reasonable.
Yeah. No, they don't usually do child smacking on Star Trek.
Beverly, take a chill pill?
Yeah, she's understandably a bit horrified. She talks to Troy, says she wasn't even thinking, she just got really angry. And Troy tells her that she's not the only one who's suddenly had strong emotional outbursts lately.
Of course, when you started saying that there, my brain was like, yeah, and other folks have also started slapping Wesley around, but that's not how it went. No.
Everyone on the ship slaps Wesley one time.
Just like the Vulcan tier, everyone's allowed one.
So meanwhile, Data has a strange conversation with Sacketh, who hints that it might be a good idea to look into whether Picard would be capable of taking over the negotiations, just in case.
Yeah, no reason. I don't expect Sarek to... I'm not the one on trial here.
Meanwhile, in Forward, O'Brien gets the scene to demonstrate that everyone's becoming increasingly and irrationally angry by starting a fight over a table that he was going to sit at.
It's his table, but there's no name on your table. Well, them's fighting words. Bah!
Riker and Worf are on their way to 10 Forward, talking about Worf's insubordination report. Riker says tempers have become frayed and walks into a full-on bar fight.
Well, the captain's not singing again, so this is probably an actual problem to have to worry about here.
Yeah, at least it's not singing. That would be really worrying. So Crusher's noticed the outbreak of anger and violence seemed to coincide with Sarek coming on board, and she believes that Sarek has a rare Vulcan condition called Bendai syndrome, which is characterized by a loss of emotional control, and Vulcan's low-level telepathy triggers those emotions in others.
Now, this is not to be confused with Bandai syndrome. That's something else entirely.
Yeah. There's one's got an A in it.
Or the Bandy City, which was attacked and countered by Farpoint.
Yeah, there's just... I know that there's only so many words, but come on.
One part of my brain thought about during when I was watching this for the rewatch, like, all right, what if instead of maybe Sarek having it because he's the elder one, it was Sakath who had actually been leaking his emotions everywhere.
Yeah, that would be interesting. They accuse Sarek that it's actually early onset in Sakath, and then it's a commentary on ageism.
Mm-hmm. That'd be interesting, I think.
It would be, except they just decided to do this for, I don't know, because they want Patrick Stewart to be able to capital A act.
Yes, but we'll get to that soon.
Yeah. So there's a test for Bendai syndrome, but it could take a few days. Data is able to get Sakath to admit that the mission is in jeopardy. Picard confronts Sarek, and despite Pern trying to block him, Sarek logically thinks that he has to hear Picard out, because if there's any chance that he would be affected, they need to figure it out. They also figure out that Sakath's been using his telepathy to help Sarek stabilize his emotions, and that's why things haven't gotten as bad as they could.
Another what-if thing popped in my head. It's like, all right, well, that's what you've been doing all this time instead of being useless.
So Sarek asks if he can talk to Picard alone and says, okay, convince me.
Well, Sarek of Vulcan. I will say Sarek of Vulcan a lot to this conversation, and we'll keep going until you raise your voice. How about that?
Yeah, he basically does that. Because I have circumstantial evidence. He's like, you dare accuse me of circumstantial evidence? Oh, I see what you mean.
Oh, yeah. So,
damn.
Yeah, I guess I am feeling a little toasty here right now in terms of emotions.
So Picard doesn't think he has any choice but to just apologize to the Thangarans and hope they understand the situation. But Perrin approaches him with an idea. She believes that they can let Sarek have one last win so that he can just get this done with. He's the only one that really can, and then he can just retire with dignity instead of, going into a mental hospital.
That seems reasonable. So we're not going with the kooky plan where Picard puts on some Vulcan ears and Sarek whispers into his ear with a little bug there here. Okay.
That would be fun. But no, we're not going to say or no the thing. She believes that Sarek will be able to finish the negotiations if Picard mind melds with him.
Wait a moment. Picard doesn't have mental powers. Right?
Yeah, I don't know why this would work. So Picard meets Sarek, who does agree that this would let him get his emotional control, but it would be by putting all of his emotions into Picard's brain. And as we've established weirdly at this point, Vulcans have more intense emotions than humans do. Mm-hmm. So he's worried that Picard would just be overwhelmed.
Well, as long as it doesn't, cause him to hurt himself, he can write it out, right?
Probably. Yeah, they could just tie him down. Does he need to be awake for it? Like, that's the thing. If he just pours his emotions into him, can't they just then sedate him and he can sleep through the whole thing?
All right, here's your knockout ejection. See you in 5 hours. Maybe put him in the holodeck, like just a padded room situation.
Yeah, just give him a lot of stuff to beat up or cry over. Yeah.
Hopefully you don't start eating your fingers.
So Picard says he's worried, but he thinks it's the only logical solution. He did the thing that the Vulcans do. Yeah. So they do the mind meld. Sarek's perfectly normal again, apart from his calling Riker #1 sometimes. Mm-hmm. And he's ready to start the negotiations. Picard, on the other hand, is locked in a conference room with Dr. Crusher, and he is not having a good time.
Yeah, and so we get ourselves a nice long shot with the camera going around him as he's doing a bit of muttering.
They do this big one long take, or he's angry, and he's impatient, and then he's sad, and then he's like, I can't even tell my own wife and child that I love them. This is the inner torment of the Vulcan mind.
Yeah, I want to feel these things, but that'd be terrible because it'd be awful. And oh gosh, I love my wife.
God, Vulcans are boring.
Why can't we have some weird emotions situation pop up here? It's like, it would be kind of fun just to get in a fist fight with Riker here. I think I could take him, actually. Yeah.
So the negotiations are apparently a huge success. Sarek thanks Picard for helping him finish off his career properly. Picard tells Pern how much Sarek actually loves her, and she goes, I know, I married the dude.
Yeah. He doesn't say it because volcanism stuff, but he does the finger thing with me. Remember the finger thing from back in the original series? Yeah,
that thing.
Yeah.
He killed a man for me. I was engaged to somebody else, and then he sliced him in half with a big stick.
And then we enjoyed our finger touching, and then we, lived happily ever after.
Oh, Sarek tells Picard they'll always have the best parts of each other from now on. Picard says goodbye with a good old live long and prosper salute.
Yes, and peace and long life to you, too.
Breathe deep, seek peace.
Yeah. It would have been funny if, at the beginning of the episode, Picard tried to do the Vulcan salute, but just couldn't, and now he could.
And then at the end, they could have done that. They could have gone through. I know there's a lot of stuff. There's mental health. There's ageism. This is obviously dementia. Mm-hmm. Allegory for dementia. My God, Vulcans are so fucking boring. We get it. You suppress all your emotions, but you still have all your emotions, but you suppress them, which is the worst possible way to deal with emotions. But for some reason, we're not really doing a commentary on that. We're just doing a commentary on how sad it is that you don't get to express your emotions. But you could do it healthfully. You've just all decided as a culture that repression is the only proper way to have emotions.
Yeah, because you weren't able to handle it with, feeling the, full gamut of emotions, and thus everyone has to be oppressed now. Thanks,
yeah, but
Sarek.
You don't actually, they do all this, meditation and whatever. They don't actually get into, a Zen philosophy or a nothing really matters, so my emotions are just, a part of the universe that do not need to affect me or whatever the hell. They just, oppress it, push it down. I feel some happiness. That happiness doesn't belong there. Put it back in the box.
Yes, happiness, it's wrong. You're wrong, Captain. Wrong.
And then every now and then we get a big speech about how actually they're the most tragic of all because they could feel deeply, but they have to push it all back and suppress it until their suppressed rage and anger gives them an aneurysm. Vulcans actually should live about 1,000 years, but they get to an aneurysm at about 200 from all the repressed rage.
So maybe the lesson here is, Vulcans need to start evolving their philosophy to, maybe not be so oppressive.
Yeah, they also while we don't ever get the direct contrast, we talk a lot in a bunch of episodes about how Vulcans and Romulans are very closely related, possibly even exactly the same species. And the Romulans seem to be doing fine. Their problem is not they're over emotional. Their problem is fascism.
Yeah, they're scaredy cats, so they embrace authoritarianism in order to feel not so scared.
Yeah, which is not, a direct one-to-one cause of not repressing all of your feelings.
Yeah. So it's maybe Romulans have figured out how to deal with all their feelings except their paranoia.
See, I get that they couldn't do this in the 60s because that would have been way too close to a hippie philosophy, and they were not going to have a hippie on the bridge. So instead they had to do a patriarchal man philosophy of my emotions could just harm others around me, so I valiantly oppress them.
It's a downsized version of World of Cardboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except World of Cardboard was way more interesting. Because that's the whole thing. So if somebody knows, so there's a really famous speech in I think it was the Justice League cartoon, not the Batman cartoon, where one of the big bads shows up and he's actually going toe to toe with Superman, and Superman has this really great speech about how he lives in a world made of cardboard, and he has to be so careful not to break things all the time. But now this guy lets him go all out, and he basically just punches him into the moon.
So now we have to worry about losing our moon. Great.
But that is the complete opposite thing with Superman, because Superman's entire thing is being the most good person he can possibly be, which is incredibly hard because it would be so easy for him to take care of any problem by killing people without even having to think about it. Which is the exact opposite of I control my intense emotions because I am just harmful. I keep the rage inside because I am actually a wild, evil thing.
So that's why I said it's a downgraded version of it. That it's trying to follow the same beats, but instead of actually coming to the same sort of vibe, it's more of your power is that you become powerless over yourself, not that you have powers.
So anyway, the Vulcans are fundamentally uninteresting. And the reason everyone thinks they're so interesting is because they really go really hard all in on a misunderstanding of Stoicism that's very popular amongst a certain type of patriarch.
Yeah. I guess it would be interesting to actually have cultural evolution in the Vulcans, which unfortunately due to Discovery we can't really do within a reasonable time limit of Star Trek-ness. But maybe somewhere in the future, or maybe there's offshoots somewhere. There is, I guess, those one group of folks from Enterprise that show up. And one of them was terrible, but, the other dude there was pretty okay. Where they're suppressing all emotions isn't actually helpful. You can let the good ones out. You can be, friendly and cheerful and have a good time. It's, endless pointless rage that we do our best to get away from here, and maybe by having more of those good emotions we'll have less of those bad ones to deal with in the first place.
But they just sidestepped the entire emotional discussion because they draw such a direct one-to-one between emotion and action. Being angry about stuff is not a problem. Punching things because you're angry about stuff is a problem.
Yes.
And it's not about suppressing how you feel. It's about not letting how you feel dictate how you act.
I sometimes have to remind folks, like, yeah, you can be pissed off about this, but, what you actually do, not what you think, is what's going to matter in the end. That, if you are, you're feeling these things and you don't like that you feel these things, you can, to a certain extent, try to, healthily change your mind into a better state of less, anger and the like. But in the meantime, keep your actions in check. Let these emotions roll through you and then eventually roll off you. Because it's only physically possible to be angry for so long, assuming you're actually taking care of your emotions properly.
The philosophy that I've always found the most useful for thinking about this stuff is that emotions are informational.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that different than, like, you feel hungry, so that gives you the information that you didn't eat anything for too long. You feel angry because something has gone wrong, and you might need to address that. You feel sad because something happened that you might need to deal with. You feel happy because a good thing that you want to continue happening is happening.
Mm-hmm. These are responses to situation that is evolving or has recently happened.
But we don't go, I need to repress being hungry, because hunger is such a strong and powerful incentive that if I let myself become hungry, I will murder a chicken with my bare teeth.
Maybe the best way to avoid murdering a chicken like that is to, I don't know, have some, like, not chicken food.
This is kind of this is like the equivalent. The Vulcans are like the equivalent of a species with a high metabolism that needs to eat all the time, going, what we do is suppress our hunger because we have such intense hunger that we just have to ravenously eat all the time. And the only way to fix that is to suppress it utterly.
And how's that doing for you? Well, our bodies are slowly breaking down, and we when we do eat, it's hard not to stop. And this sucks. I'm gonna die of malnutrition, and I also don't move very much anymore. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's like when you ignore the stuff your body needs and deal with it in a bad way, weird and bad things happen.
I guess maybe for any of this to make sense, there would need to have been a non-evolutionary cause for the Vulcans' emotions to be one as they are, and to only be able to be reined in through this particular sort of system, which seems a little ridiculous.
Yeah, I think the actual problem is not that they have this as a philosophy. It is a philosophy that exists now. It's just a mild exaggeration of a misunderstanding of Stoicism. But they don't critique the philosophy at all, ever. They sometimes go, the Vulcans are sad. It's weird how to control our emotions. Emotions are what make us human. They don't critique the philosophy itself. They often say the philosophy is in fact correct. It just maybe sacrifices too much of your humanity to pull off.
Yeah, instead, they want to critique logic versus going with your gut.
Yeah, they always do this. You could be logical or you could be emotional. Emotion is the enemy of reason. That bullshit.
But that's
it's
false
just
dichotomy.
not. You are not going to make a good decision. You're never going to logic your way to an appropriate decision without emotions. It just doesn't function. It doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. How brains work is a little bit more complicated than, if A equals B or something like that. We're not computers here, people.
And like Vulcans work different. It's like Vulcans got to such an advanced level of technology before this philosophy that they had interstellar travel thousands of years before humans did.
We'll learn later that their disagreements that were causing all ruckus back at home had like atomic exchanges, sort of levels of destruction here. So they both had some sort of either warp drive or pre-warp space program plus atomic weapons. So they were pretty far along in terms of getting stuff organized in order to have all this sort of thing here. And that was with full raging emotions. So, they did okay.
Yeah, so obviously they like did fine. I mean, it's pretty decent commentary on something like that. You could very easily do a very interesting and good commentary on the horrors of a full-on worldwide nuclear war were so overwhelming that they felt like this was the only way to deal with it. That could have been an interesting commentary if you actually explored that as an idea instead of just going, Vulcans, they're cool, they're logic. They do logic and science stuff because they don't have stupid emotions to get in the way. How stupid are emotions?
Yeah, we get the boring version.
But anyway, this episode isn't about Vulcan emotion. This episode is about dementia.
Yeah. So, shall we talk a little bit about dementia then?
Yeah, it's depressing and scary, and we don't know what to do about it, and we treat people who have it really badly.
Yes. A couple of my grandparents got, Alzheimer's specifically, which is, a contributor to dementia. But, it's sort of a specific sort of general mechanism for it. It was really terrible seeing them kind of fall apart in this. There's losing memories. Things aren't, clear to them anymore. They can get, they were getting, occasionally very agitated as, things progressed, and maybe not on any things that actually seemed to be happening to them. That maybe there was something that they, had a problem with days, weeks, even years before. That's now the only thing that they remember in the here and now in terms of, quote, recent events. And so it's difficult for folks to deal with. And as a society, we've decided, all right, so the people that are difficult to deal with, and so we're going to be crap about dealing with them. Ugh.
Yes, it's all terrible. I'm sorry that you had to deal with any of that and that they had to deal with any of that because we treat it so horribly. Like, there's good research that we are just doing some of this to older people. Mm-hmm. Like, not to say that there is not a physiological cause or factor to any of this stuff. There definitely is, and we're working to understand it. But we also take people's ability to function and live away slowly. Mm-hmm. I remember my grandmother used to live in a assisted living place that was very mild assisted living that was all apartments. Every apartment looked exactly the same. Every floor looked exactly the same. The entire place was structured like a bad hotel. I got lost in there. Ugh. This is what we do. You put people in these homogenous these homogenous buildings where there's no differentiation between rooms. You don't give them anything to do. Someone who's retired and doesn't have a job anymore has no reason to structure their life or week or day off of something. It takes away a lot of the factors and markers that we give people to structure their lives around. And then we just completely ignore them for a while. And then we wonder why people start having mental health issues.
Yeah. It's like, all right, well, they could watch the TV to have all this stuff. That's not good enough.
Yeah, and I don't think Fox News is helping.
No. They can, spend time with the other old people. And, some of them have been there for a while and are really far gone because their situation is crap. So they're not going to be helpful for the folks that are going to be, first coming into this situation. And so you get kind of this rotation of not being able to help each other. So that's not going to work. What else do we got? Well, we got the caregivers, and some of them are fantastic. Other times they're not so good. There's from time to time, news pops up about folks abusing older folks in care homes of various sorts. And that's kind of awful.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people are great. Yeah. Most people who work at these places want to help. There's a lot of structural corruption.
Yes.
And bad laws and incentives to pack people in because you get paid per person and can get government subsidies that they don't actually check on.
Yeah, and so you get like someone who owns the place who's like, yeah, just keep piling people in, and the people that actually work there that want to help people are like, we're swamped.
It was really good. Someone had a really good point thing the other day. Why is something like elder care so expensive when the people who do it need to be on food stamps?
So a lot of the money's not going to the people that actually do the job, or the facilities, or a few other, kind of essential things. There's this weird overhead that just kind of vacuums up a weird portion of it. Maybe we should change that. Maybe less profit incentives. Wouldn't that be nice?
There's several ways that we just treat people that have mental issues or mental problems. It's not exclusive to the elderly, but this is very common in older people, that we just sort of toss people away and ignore them and treat them like the fact that they're having a mental issue means that their life is basically over and not worth living anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I have this book, I forget which one. There's a guy who used to write a lot of interesting psychological books called Oliver Sacks, and he had a whole chapter in one of the books about being in a mental health facility where a lot of older people were, and several of them had some mental problem where they full on thought they were like 5 or 6 years old. They for some reason couldn't really access their life between then and now, and they were basically doing fine.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't act, they wouldn't have been able to like interact with the rest of the world. They would have had problems living independently, but like they weren't having a particularly bad time if you didn't treat them badly.
Yeah, we come off as childish in a very kind of literal sense in this case. And, people are allowed to live like that, as in, like, that's how they are just going to be. And trying to sort of cordon them off instead of just, helping them, it's going to compound problems that are also already developing. So it's very frustrating, isn't it, Gepwin?
Yeah, it's very frustrating, and there's so little that you can do about it.
I mentioned my grandparents there specifically were getting Alzheimer's, which is a specific physiological development, and research is going into that, and it's all about developing sort of these plaque-like structures in your brain that slowly degrade its structure,
that we don't really know where come from or what do.
Yeah, and there's some research that might suggest A, B, and C, and we're not entirely sure if it's all of them contributing or one of them is the cause. But all the same, this is something that's does require special care past a certain a point of development, because folks are not able to remember certain things, and that might be where they are at or who this person that they're conversing with presently is. They would like to know, and they're just unable to physically do it anymore. And that's on top of being in oftentimes facilities that are not helpful for building memories or keeping them, as you mentioned before, that because they're all very samey, suddenly it's like, wow, I have this physical damage to my brain, but also I'm in a situation where everything that's going on is basically exacerbating it. So that's terrible.
And there's also some amount of evidence, even though we have no idea what causes these things, and it's all circumstantial, that the lack of mental activity might cause or exacerbate Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm. My grandfather was actually able to sort of fight back for a while on it, just because he did keep himself mentally active well into his later years. The sort of quote of this is someone who always does the crossword and pen. He very much was that kind of guy, and he would do that crossword actually every single day, as well as a few other things. But that could only help him out so long. But it did help him, I guess, have that transition into more developed Alzheimer's. come softer and had him more able to deal with things for a good long while. While my grandmother, who didn't necessarily have the same regiment, went a lot faster. A few years before things got really bad for him. So yeah, dementia and how we treat older folks. It's kind of terrible.
Yeah.
It has improved over time generally, but it's not where it needs to be yet.
Yep, that's about it. That's where we're at. We don't know enough about it, but we do treat people who have it very badly.
Yeah, which doesn't help at all. Joy.
Yeah.
So do we got anything else we want to touch upon here?
I don't think so. And usually when we're super depressing, we do something called the Galaxy's Favorite Game Show.
Woo! Hey everybody, welcome to the Galaxy's Favorite Game Show. I have various contestants here, including those not appearing on this film. I've been racking up various points, and let's start handing out those prizes because we're getting to the end of things here. Yes, the first one is the Berserker Button prize, which goes to Sarek as he loses his cool upon finding out he's losing his cool. What does he win, Gipwin?
He wins some clubs, because, what happened to all the weapons and things? Spock had a bunch of weapons and things just all over his quarters. And I feel like Sarek should have that available to, smash into a table or do something dramatic. He doesn't get to do anything dramatic. And if he had Spock's quarters, he would have a bunch of, swords and things, and it would be more fun.
Yes, well, he is in the guest quarters, so they probably don't pack those full of weapons, but it would have been kind of fun to have a whole thing where the assistant and Sakath came on and were like, yeah, we're going to get his quarters set up as he likes it. So he'll be up in just a few minutes and then, have the other spiel there. Our second prize is the Babel Network prize, which goes to the crew of the entire Enterprise for picking up stray emotional outbursts and, getting a little too active on them. What do they win, Gipwin?
They win the damn counselor that they're all supposed to be going to constantly. I understand, sudden influx of weird emotions might catch you off guard, but, how have you all been going to therapy constantly for the entire time you've been on this ship, and you haven't figured out any way to regulate stuff?
That's a good question. Maybe Troy's time's been eaten up by hanging out on the bridge and dealing with Barclay.
Yeah, it's all Barclay now. It's all Barclay's fault.
Sorry, Barclay, but, you got introduced, so we got to reference you sometimes. Anyway, our final prize is the Acting prize, which goes to Picard for the scene where he's taking on Sarek's emotions for better or worse. That was acting. What does he win, Gepwin?
Yes, who wins that Emmy that he was obviously going for? Acting.
Acting!
I cannot get it out of my head. I don't know. Anybody who's watching the Harley Quinn cartoon, just imagine this Picard scene, but with Clayface. That's the only thing I've been able to have in my head since this.
So now we're going to have a Star Trek Harley Quinn crossover with even more acting.
That'd be great.
Anyway, Gepwin, that's all I got here today, unless I want to start talking about Reading Rainbow.
Oh, yeah.
So feel free to take us away.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on the Galaxy's Favorite Game Show.
Woo!
I can't remember if the Star Trek comics are DC or Marvel.
There has been some crossovers, I think, with the X-Men, so they might be Marvel.
Okay, so it's Marvel. So we're probably not going to get the Harley Quinn Star Trek crossover.
Though Marvel has crossed over with DC before.
I know, but that would be so many crossovers.
Yes.
It's like we have to cross over the crossover to get this crossover and then crossover with this other crossover.
Yes. So it is a stretch, but possible. Yeah.
And then
also,
you'd have to take that crossover and put it in a spin-off cartoon that's disconnected from everything else they're doing right now.
because otherwise it brings up too many questions.
Yeah.
So if Superman exists in the Star Trek universe, where's Krypton?
It
It
blew
blew
up.
up. The leftovers, Maybe we can go there and mine some kryptonite of various sorts.
Maybe the Kryptonians were those weird eldritch things that showed up from outside of the galaxy that one time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the non-humanoids out from outside the galaxy is always a fun time, and if we start making a weird crossovers, might as well make use of that.
Anyway, that's that.
Yeah, then
That's all that.
are you familiar with the reading? Do you know why I was referencing Reading Rainbow there?
Not offhand. I don't remember a lot of Reading Rainbow.
Well, it was Geordi and Wesley during their fight, and it's like I'd get more action out of a good book than you would on your date. Says the guy from Reading Rainbow.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Though I obviously couldn't think about good action out of a good book, and it's like, oh, what kind of book is Geordi reading?
It's in a book.
All sorts of things are in books, Kaplan.
Yeah,
So take a look. It's in a book.
yeah, and the weird Victorian era erotic novel.
Yeah, because in TNG era, all the books are at least 19th century or earlier,
Yeah, so I guess it makes sense.
except for Dixon Hill, because it's fictional.
Do they say when that was written? They say when it's set. When were the Dixon Hill novels written?
That's a good point. It could be contemporary to our show here.
Yeah. Which is why it's such a weird noir setting.
Noir, set in the 40s and 50s, but written in the 2050s. Or 2250s, or the 2350s.
It's just throwback. It's throwback media. Yeah.
Maybe there's like a whole twist of the genre of like alternative history, except it's alternative history post World War II. Everything after that is interesting to think about, but everything before that, it's boring.
So
anyway, that's all I got today.
Yeah.
Today, Kaplan. I'm running out of speed.
So do you know? Does everybody know what episode this was?
Yes. It was I don't know. There was like a 3-digit number of some sort.
Nah, people probably wouldn't know this because I messed up how I number things online. So like I do season numbers that don't actually make any sense, just so the episodes have a different number that you can look at easily. But what this episode was Watchers of Tomorrow episode 199.
199 proper episodes? What?
Yeah, which means that next episode is episode 200.
Wait, well, we're not going to do like 199.5, then 199.8, then 199.9.
It depends how long it takes us to get our 200th episode together.
0.999, 0.99999.
There's technically an infinite number of episodes between episode 199 and 200.
And it's just a matter of getting things organized for that, then, eh?
Yeah, there's more episodes between the episodes than there are whole episodes.
I think we might be getting ourselves into some sort of Xeno problems here.
I was not very good at discrete mathematics, so.
Well, I'll just take the limit as everything goes to infinity, and we'll see what happens. How about that?
Yeah, there we go. We haven't gotten everything organized yet, so I can't give you a proper teaser, but we're doing something.
Yes. The something. The something. The something. Let's do the something.
Is that a real song?
I don't know. I'm just making up as I go along.
Okay.
So what outro should I do here then? Should I do the the one that may work, or should I do the one for the next Star Trek episode instead?
I mean, we're doing something for the next one. We just don't know what it is yet.
Oh, we have an idea. Just
yeah,
the specifics.
But we don't have it completely organized.
Yeah. So
hey,
I'll go with that one.
Do the one for what we're planning, and then we can re-record it if we need to.
Oh, brilliant! That's why
keep enough of this in the episode to be funny.
We don't know where we're going with this, but we'll get there eventually. Next time on Watchers of Tomorrow, what even is science fiction? You have been listening to Watchers of Tomorrow, a podcast on science fiction media. Find and follow Watchers of Tomorrow on Podbean, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Spreader, Digital Podcast, and perhaps many more to come. If you enjoy our podcast, make sure to subscribe for more. And where possible, make sure to rate your experience or leave us a review. You may find Gepwin on youtube.com/Gepwin and Twitter @Gepwin. You may find me, Dr. Isix, on youtube.com/Dr. Isix and Twitter @IsixLP. Music is Waveform and Mori's Principle, both by DRKRN. You can also check out the Watchers of Tomorrow Discord channel. Make sure to share the experience with your friends, family, enemies, and alien overlords. If you feel you are suffering from transporter syndrome, please be aware that the next time you step off the transporter, that you, that is now, no longer exists.